Everything we talk about needs to be talked about.
Yeah, but okay, here's the deal. We're just trying to figure out if the GoPro is working or not. So we don't need to get into this big, long explanation, and then it doesn't work anyways. And then you have to sit there and edit it and cry about it.
That's what I've been doing the whole time.
Right. So this is enough. Now we can shut the camera off and go in there and see if you can get it to upload and get it to edit properly.
We don't know what we're doing. It's fine.
What's up, guys? Logan here with Loganbuilt. Back in the shop tonight. Want to show you guys a really awesome project that I'm working on. Kind of a winter build, something to work on in between transmission jobs. Is a good friend of mine, Jordan Newman's first-gen race truck. This thing and I have a lot of history. Jordan and I have a lot of history. Jordan and I went to high school together. We both got our trucks in high school. So we were both driving them around at the same time together. So this thing holds a little bit of sentimental value to me just for that reason. And I've been a pretty big part of it during its journey. I believe he started building this one about a year after I did. I started on mine in 2013, and he would have started on this one about 14, 15. Jordan went off to college right after high school to UTI to learn the trade to become a mechanic. And he was still driving his truck at that time, and I was already working on mine. This truck has a lot of neat things about it. My dad actually did the paint and body work on it, and it's kind of an evolved project. Like most of them start out, originally he was building to be a really nice street truck, hot running 12-valve setup, and as you go along, you want to go a little bit further. The next thing you know, you end up with a full race truck build. So he actually purchased the engine out of JP's truck, the one that we went 497 with. So stepping up from a 800 horsepower 12-valve to a 1800 horsepower engine, there's going to need to be some chassis changes made. There's quite a few custom pieces made. I have to fit all of the intercooler and radiator stuff in the truck from JP's truck. He basically bought the entire engine setup, ECM, intercooler, piping, the whole deal, which is really the best way if you're going to buy something like that, is just to get the whole proven combination. So I'm going to do a walk around, show you guys a little bit about the truck, show you some features on it, and tell you what all I have to do to it. So I'm going to start off by doing a little walk around of the truck and showing you guys some of the features on it. Like I said, the truck is a 93, or actually it's a 92, mine's a 93. First gen, it was an original Alabama truck. It was like 99% rust-free, really nice piece when he got it. My dad did all of the paint and body work on it, and pretty much all of the fab work besides the roll cage was done by me. Jordan's put a lot of time into this truck himself. He has plumbed it, wired it, still some plumbing and whatnot to go. I love the tailgate panel on it. To me, a first gen, man, like an LE truck looks so good with the LE tailgate on it. I really was gonna put one on mine, and I just opted not to, but this thing looks killer with the LE plate. So anyhow, the truck will be ran in the 590 index. I'm sure that Jordan is going to turn it up because this thing will obviously go a lot faster than 590 with that engine combo. The cage was done by 10 Soldier Race Cars. Beautiful cage, all chrome moly, 25.4, super nice piece. I love a 25.4 cage in a regular cab because you don't have to do rear down bars, and man, these things look so good with no rear down bars out the back glass. I did a Lexan windshield in it. It is race pack, smart wire, very similar to my truck as far as that stuff goes. The 25.4 cage is good to 750 in a truck that weighs 3,600. Obviously this truck isn't going to be 3,600, but the cage is good, just like an 850 to 530 in the 8th. So plenty of room to grow and really lean on the engine combination without any worries there. Still shuts like old first gen. Full weight doors, glass, power windows still. And then, like I said, the power plant out of JP's engine, exactly like it was. We plucked it out right after that 497 pass. This is really where it gets kind of interesting, and where my job, one of the big things that I have to do, is this isn't just a direct bolt in on a motor like this. This is a 6.7 based block, so the 6.7s have a little bit different bolt hole positioning for the engine mounts. And then when I go underneath the truck, I'll show you guys the King Speed oil pan is quite a bit bigger for more oil capacity, and they never designed those things to be in a first gen. And I'll show you some of the clearance issues that you run into when you're trying to stuff one in a truck like this. Then like I said, Jordan got all the intercooler, that's everything out of JP's truck, and I have got to make all of that fit behind the factory grill and in between that engine. And it might look like in here that there's a lot of room for that, but I assure you that there is not a lot of room. I have already had this stuff stacked in there. We're getting pretty close on the getting that all buttoned up, and I will tell you, it is tight. And it is so tight that I had to do some different features to make this thing a little bit more serviceable, but it really turned out pretty killer. All right, so if you guys, any of you guys that know first gens, know that normally there's a big giant crossmember piece right here. The problem with that, with this truck, is that the balancer was above it. So there was no way to access the balancer from the bottom, which doesn't sound like a problem, but you'll see when I show you guys how tight packed that intercooler radiator combo is. There's no way to get to the balancer bolts from the top. And like I said in previous videos, I'm all about making stuff easy to work on. And if you need to be able to check the balancer bolts at the track. This is a belt-driven CP3 setup, so you need to be able to change a belt at the track. And there was just no way that any of that was going to be feasible without making sure that you could get to the bottom of this thing, get a tool up in there. And I'll show you some of the features I did with the radiator and intercooler to make that super easy to work on. But the issue that you run into with the King Speed pan is this thing is wider than the factory pan by a lot. It's also deeper. So if you put the engine in the factory location, well, ish, because the 6.7 bolt holes move it back slightly, what you run into is it basically rests up against the housing on the front axle here. The other problem that you'll run into is when you go to the lockup style transmission, or 47, 48 in general, the adapter plate is a little bit bigger, and with this 6.7 being where it's at, you can't tell with the lighting here yet, but I'll show you guys on another video. The transmission actually is hitting the bottom of the floor pan, so that is one of my big tasks that I have to make this thing easier to get the transmission in and out of as well. So I made these solid engine mounts for him, and they would have worked perfect had this been a 5.9 with a stock oil pan, but because of what we're faced with, I'm going to have to make him a new set of engine mounts and move this engine over towards the driver's side just a little bit. I'm going to try to shoot for maybe 3/8 of an inch at the most. There's not a lot of room in this thing, honestly. You think of a first gen being this big old truck, but really a lot tighter constraints than what you guys would think. When I was building my truck, I really ran into that, where I found that everything basically barely fits. And then these are some adjustable shock mounts that I had made him in the past that use the factory style. And so we're able to raise the ride height up and down with this while still keeping it leaf spring. And the nice thing about this, other than giving me control, of course, on the front end separation, is I can take some of the load off of these leaf springs and give this shock more of a task. So treating it more like a 4-link setup. We really don't play with the adjustment on the front 4-link anyways. We have a certain setup that we're shooting for. Once it's like that, it's good. So I don't think he's going to be at much disadvantage running the leaf spring setup over a 4-link, other than just the weight of it. But these leafs, it's a 3-pack, I don't think there's a huge weight savings to be gained there. I don't think for the money invested that it would be worth him changing it, at least not right now. I think he can go plenty fast on this setup here. And then to complete the 25.4, right now he's just got a core transmission up in there, just a bare case. While he was working on his plumbing and whatnot, it's just strapped in. But to do a 25.4, you have to have a tubular bar underneath of the transmission, and you can use that as your transmission cross member, part of the rules. That's how it is in JP's truck too. So I have to get rid of this big honking monster cross member and build him a nice light tubular one like what I have in my truck. The nice thing about this in my truck is that with them both being first gens, I learned a lot along the way on building mine, and a lot of the same stuff works exactly on this truck or applies exactly to this truck. And then, like I had mentioned before, with upgrading to that kind of crazy power level, this Dana 70 is going to have to go. From a money standpoint, to try to get a Dana 70 to hold up to 1800 horsepower if you want to use it, it's, you're going to have to sink about 2,500 bucks in that thing. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a first gen Dana 70 actually has a smaller pinion than a second gen Dana 70. So some guys have gone really fast on, like, say Paul Cato has been 507 on a stock Dana 70 from a second gen. And I just don't know if that's possible with this smaller pinion, and this truck being a little bit heavier than a Pro Street truck. It's just really not worth the investment of the money. So we are going to be doing a 9-inch in this truck. We'll do the same basic combination that we have in mine. We'll do we'll probably just do a stamped steel housing on this, like what we have in JP's. There's really, with it being a leaf spring and everything, there's no reason to go crazy with a fab housing and whatnot. Keep the cost down. In some ways, I think that a stamped steel housing can actually be built lighter on something like this. And it'll be a probably an HD third member. That seems to be working really good in my truck so far. We have the Ultra third members in JP's, but those are quite a bit more expensive, and honestly think we could have got away with the HDs in his too. Jordan chose to do a mono leaf in the rear instead of using any of the factory leaf spring stuff, so I believe he got that from Calvert. Pretty sure he did. That is a Calvert mono leaf, and my only concern with it is it's really stiff. This truck is obviously not going to have a good weight bias, which I don't really care about weight bias on a four-wheel drive. I don't think it matters as much as some people think, but I do care about the way that a chassis compresses and extends when you push down on it, and this thing just seems really, really stiff, which is why we were going to run it with no springs to start with on the coilovers. Because I just think it's going to end up being too stiff. So I want to start with just bare minimum, and then we can add from there. The one thing nice about more horsepower is it'll definitely try to hit the tire harder, and it'll load the chassis harder, so it'll overcome a heavier spring. And this will be a trans brake truck with one of my transmissions in it. It'll basically be the same transmission that we have in my truck, which was the same one that we ran at JP's for years. So I think this combo is going to work really good. The mono leaf might end up being a little too tight, but it might not at the same time. This truck's going to be a little bit heavier than mine. We're shooting for around 5,000 pounds race weight. Jordan's quite a bit lighter than I am, and it doesn't have any air to water. So although it has some heavier features than mine, it's also got some lighter features than mine. So I'm thinking that we're going to be relatively comparable, with Jordan's truck just ending up being a little bit heavier. Similar setup to mine, fuel cell in the back, battery in the back. We put it all in the middle here because we had the packaging room to do so. The bed cover will get a piece of carbon fiber basically across the whole thing, so you won't really see any of this in here. The bed sides, they're fully gutted, just just bare bed sides, and we actually did some bed liner spray on them, just a light coat of it to protect against the rocks. When you get the slicks hot, they pick up a lot of rocks, and he really likes his paint on this thing, and I don't blame him. So to keep it from putting a bunch of high spots on the outside of the panel, that's why we did that. Sacrificed a little bit of weight, adding some weight to it by doing this, but the overall rigidity and protection against the rocks is worth it on something like this. So some of the other stuff on the truck, it'll be converted over to 5-lug when he goes to the 9-inch rear end. He's already got aluminum 5-lug hubs, just like I do. So we'll have to be getting him a set of race wheels for it. We haven't picked out wheels yet. That's kind of one of those things that there's no reason to even talk about wheels right now. We've got quite a bit of work to do before we get to that point. But the stalkers that you see on here are those are just temporary to roll it around with for now. Like I said, the transmission will be the same combo that's in my truck. Probably start with the same converter and everything. Some of the stuff that I have to do to it beyond what I've talked about is a lot of little things, really. And it's the little things that sometimes take the most time and add up the most. Fit the intercooler radiator, got to do the cross member, got to do the rear 9-inch. Got to figure out some belt routing stuff. JP's truck was a manual steering truck, and this obviously is not the kind of truck that you want to have manual steering on with factory style steering. So he's using a factory 06 common rail power steering pump, and with the belt situation that he has with the mechanical fuel pump, it's kind of a little bit interesting. I think I have a plan for it. Just have to move some pulleys around and make a couple custom pieces, but just another thing to add to the list. He has the truck mostly wired, but there's obviously some things that can't be wired until it's pretty much completely done. There's some things that I have to do. We're getting a transfer case just like mine from Corey Dow. Corey has been working on that for us, and so it'll have aluminum drive shafts front and rear just like mine, just like JP's truck. Like I said, he got the ECM from JP's truck. He also got the engine harness. So mostly the engine harness will plug and play. I have to make a little mount for his Deutsch connector setup. I got to mount his smart wire. I've got to mount the ECU for him. It's one of those jobs where so far, you know, Jordan's got it most of the way, and the work that I've done in the past has got it most of the way, and now it's all of the finishing up work and fitting the new engine and just getting everything to the point where it's closer to race ready. It won't leave my shop 100% race ready. It won't leave here and go to the racetrack unless something changes. There's a lot of stuff that Jordan is more than capable of doing himself and wants to do himself. So basically I'm just doing the things that he doesn't want to do, and then he's taking over and finishing up what will be left of it. So you'll see several videos from this truck. I've got plenty of work. Probably going to take me the whole winter to get this thing done. Like I said before, it's an in-between on my transmission stuff. Transmissions are priority number one, and a little fab project like this is you know, filler work, we'll say. But other than that, check back in and keep your eyes peeled for this one, man. It's going to be a runner for sure. So I'm really looking forward to working on it, and I'm glad Jordan has trusted me to get it this far, and I hope we can probably make this thing the fastest first gen there is, if anybody cares about that. So catch you guys on the next one.